Using this nice organized map, I can use some Sass magic to have it output all of these into custom properties, and even better, a whole set of utility classes based on those custom properties as well. Hi there, my name is Kevin, and here at my channel we learn how to make the web and how to make it look good while we're at it with weekly tips, tricks, and tutorials. Some people think that with things like calc, custom properties, and other modern CSS features that we don't really need Sass anymore. The thing is, Sass is a lot more than math and variables, but other than the fancy things that it can do, it also plays really well with custom properties. Alright, so we're here in VS Code, as you can see, and we're going to be doing a few things in here just really quickly. This isn't the finished organization of my file or anything. I wouldn't be doing this in my main. I just want to look at this one example though of how we can get it all set up. So I think it's easiest to do this. But I do have a few partials here. I have my colors that are all here in a map. I have my type scale that is going to be set up that we're going to look at too. And I have some media query stuff here. This would normally be in two different files as well. This would be in my mix-ins. This would be in my breakpoints. But a few things before, if you're looking at this just going, I have no idea what you're looking at. This video is a little bit more advanced on Sass. If you're not familiar with it and you're intimidated a little bit, you can watch just to get an idea of what Sass can do. But it is a bit more advanced of a topic. I'm assuming you already know how to get Sass up and running and all of that. If you don't know how, you know zero about Sass, I do have a video that looks at setting things up so you can see how to get it running on your system and all of that. The card should be popping up right there right now. And I have a few other videos that I'll also be linking down in the description as well. Those ones are going to be a little bit more of like getting you to this stage instead of just being this more advanced stuff. But let's go and jump in here. You can still learn a lot just from this. But again, you might want to check those other ones out if you're not familiar with Sass. And the very first thing we want to do here is I'm going to come in and actually I want to have, here's my compiled CSS. So this is what we'll have over here at the end, and it's already watching my file, all of that. As I said, I'm not going to get that running right now. So I want all of this to be in my root because these are all going to be custom properties at the beginning. Then we're going to look first at building out all of this as custom properties based on this, and then we'll look at the utility classes after that. But I've set up and I like having maps like this. I find it a super nice, clean, organized way to set everything up. That's very visual and for me, a lot cleaner to look at than when everything is just in custom properties. And this part is very abstract. So when you're looking at it, it might look a little bit weird. And actually, before we do anything, we're going to have to include it because I'm going to do an @use. And I want to use my colors. So in this case, if we look at my file structure, I just have it all floating in the same place. So, if you do have this in different subfolders, the way you set this up will probably be a little bit different. But I'm going to do an @use, and we're going to use our colors like this. And I'm going to say colors as star, just to make my life a little bit easier for this example. If you're used to the import syntax instead of the use syntax, I do have a video that also explores that. Once again, a card popping up on the screen right now. And so what I want to do is I want to say for each color and shade in colors. And if you're used to maps in JavaScript or other languages, the only thing that really matters here is the colors. So it's saying, okay, I have to look in colors. So it's going to jump into here, it finds this colors map, and then it's going to break this down. So it's looking at this as, then I have each color. So primary, article, YouTube. This isn't normally how I would name my colors. This is from my personal site, so things are a little bit different there. And I chose this just because I have so many different colors set up. I thought it would be a bit more interesting. But you can see it's going primary, article, YouTube. So those are my colors. And then these are the individual shades within that. Now it can be a little bit hard to know what's actually being output here when you have nested maps. So what we're going to do first is, and sometimes this will give you an error, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write color and color just to see if I hit save, will it compile anything? So I'm going to hit save. And you can actually see it does. It's compiling color primary, color article, YouTube, course, neutral. That makes sense. Every color within colors. So every color, primary, article, YouTube, course. So it's taking all of those and it's looping through them. Now the only issue is we can't actually do that with the shade. So if I came in here just to see what shade is outputting and I hit save, it's not compiling. And if I go and take a look, it's giving me an error here. And it's because the shade itself is like everything that is inside that color. So it's this entire section inside of the color. So it's not like primary is one, then all of this is my shade. So it's not really shade, I guess it's shades. So maybe we could rename that actually shades right there. So color and shades, because it's grabbing my color and then it's grabbing all the shades that are within it as one thing. So if you think about it, this is actually, the shades is actually a map. So it's kind of weird, but we have to dive into that map now. So what we're going to have to do another each. We're going to say each. So in here, what we can say is each property and value in shades. And we want to do something with that. Or I guess it could even be like each shade and value. So maybe we could do that, shade and value. So this is each individual shade and the value of that within the shades map that we've now pulled out. So hopefully I haven't lost you yet, but let's see what we can do with this. So what I want is a custom property. So we're going to start with CLR and then do it like that. And then if you're using Sass, like if you're taking a variable as a value, you can always just put it in. But if ever you want a variable to be a part of a property or used in a different way, you have to use interpolation, which is when we do this. And then in here, we can write it in. So in here, I'm going to write, I'm just trying to think, because this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We actually want to go to primary here. I want my primary, my article, my YouTube, my course. So which one of those is it? That's not any of these ones. We're actually jumping back to the original loop and going back to the color over here. So for each color, so it's going to be color hyphen primary, color hyphen article, color hyphen YouTube. So do that. Then I want a hyphen. Then here it's going to be more interpolation because we need, again, it's not a value, so it has to be interpolated. So we do it like this, where it's going to then be shade. So now remember the shade is within shades. So each shade in there is going to be the 100, the 200, the 300, the 400, the 500. So it's going to look at the color, primary, the shade, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of those. And then we can come here and we can finally put the value. With a number sign. There we go, value, like that. And we should be able to hit save. Oh, look at that. We have all of them coming in, except my value is broken. Maybe we had to interpolate this one too. Let's do a little bit of interpolation on that one. Because if ever you see it's outputting like this, where you're seeing literally what you wrote on this side, just the simple solution there is just make sure it's being interpolated. There we go. All my color values coming through just like that. And all my custom properties set up. Color primary 100, 200, 300, then it goes to my articles, and all of that all being output as custom properties. So if I need them within Sass, I can still use my map, but a lot of the time I'm going to be using my custom properties. So there we go, we get all of those. And now we can do the same thing for my fonts. Now the fonts, we can even take it a step further in a way, because I have fonts set up for small screen sizes and large screen sizes. So this is kind of fun. What I'm going to do in here, so let's go look at my type scale. So in my type scale, I have small and large screens. So what I want to do there is I want to say at each, and what are we looking at? We're looking at two different things. Remember, we're looking first at my screen size and then at the individual value within it. So for each screen size, and then font size like that in type scale. And this is the one, type scale is the one where you have to use whatever this is here. This is really the name of the map. So I'm looking at each one of the screen sizes, and then this is each one of the font sizes within that. But once again, we have a nested map here. This is not just a single layer map, it's a nested map. So that means once again, we do have to reach within that again, except I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. I'm going to say at if, so we're using an if statement now, which is kind of cool. And we're going to say if the screen size is equal to small, and with Sass you just write it like this. It's kind of interesting. In there we're going to run my at each. Let's get the size and the value, I guess we can call it in this case, in font size. So we're going into this map, because remember the second one here is, this is whenever we're using the nested maps like we did here, this is the nested map itself. So now we're looping through that nested map. Come back to here. This is my nested map. So within small or within large. So I'm going through those ones. And then what do we want to do? We want to say, so what do we want to do? We want to font size. And then I want to get the, so once again, we need an interpolation. Font size, so --fs for font size. And then I want interpolation once again. So here I'm going to do the size. And this one's a little simpler. I'm just going to say font size is size and then the value here. And as we saw, we need to interpolate that again. So here I can write in my value like that. Whoops. And if I hit save, we get an error. Oh, we're getting an error because I forgot to use it. Use type scale as star. And again, if you're not used to the use system, there we go, it is built. And if I come and take a look, you can see that those have all come through, except value is not coming out as anything. Why not? And value is not coming as anything because I forgot to put my $sign there. There we go. So those font sizes are coming through. Now the reason I'm doing this one a little bit differently is because one thing that's nice with custom properties that you cannot do within Sass is custom properties can be changed within a media query. So if it's size small, so if it's for like my 0 to my small breakpoint effectively, my small font size scale is this one. Then what I want to do is after it's gone through that, so here, and this is bracket pair colorizer, an extension that is wonderful because it's much easier when you have all this nested stuff going on. So what I want to say is actually that's my if, and then I can say else. This is because I have two scales. If you had multiple scales, you could build this up and make it more complicated. But in this case, I don't need there are else if statements within Sass as well. So you could do screen size medium, screen size large if you have multiple ones, but I don't. So if not, what I want to do then, and I'll have to come up here and do another one of these guys because I need my media query as well. So else, I'm going to say include MQ small. I know it's a bit weird, my naming convention here. I'll explain this in a second. But then I actually want this exact same thing that we have here. And hit save. And it does my media query, it does the root, and you can see that the system here that it's pumping out is a little bit different, but it's within my media query. So that means that if I'm using these custom properties in different places, that all of them are going to be automatically adjusted once we hit this minimum width. Now the reason, I know this is like if small, use this, and then if it's bigger than small, use my small media query. It's a little weird. I guess I could switch this to medium like that, and you'll see it switches here, but I just know that this is my small breakpoint that I want, and maybe my naming could be improved, but I have my small breakpoint, so that's what that is. I'm not looking at how to create this one. Once again, there's a card popping up now where you can actually see, I think, when I made this this media query here, but this is a really standard sort of, or this media query mix-in. So this is something I use all the time, just to be able to make media queries really, really easily. You could have as big of a map here as you want. And this is a nice simple one. So there we go. We have tons, and you could use this for more complex things, for other custom properties that you might be using as well. But for these fonts and colors, I find this wonderful. But especially with these, and sometimes with your fonts as well, you might want to take it a step further and also use these as utility classes, because especially for colors, it's super useful having text utility classes and background color utility classes that are available to you. I wouldn't have all of this in my main file. I would have different files to do this. I usually have one just for my root now that sets a lot of this up. And then I would have another one for my utility classes. But just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to stay here. Now it's going to be really similar actually to what we set up here with my root one, where we do need this double at each statement to be able to do this. But you're going to see we can do it in some fun ways. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do my at each. So once again, it'd be at each color. We'll make sure we use the same name, so we can even copy this right there. So each color and shade within my colors. What do we want to do? Again, we need to go into to be able to make sure we can get our shades and break that up, because this is just going to output a map, so we have to get inside of there. So for at each shade and value in shades, what do we want to do? So what we want to do now is we're actually going to make a class. So instead of having something directly output, this will be a class with some rules on it. So I want my text, and this will look a little bit similar to what we had before with my interpolation. So I want to grab my color. We need the $sign color like that. So for each color and shade, we want to do that shade. There we go. So for each one of those, so color, so it's going to be, remember the color is the name here, so let's say course, and then the shade is the number here. So it'd be text primary 400. What do we want it to be? We want it to be color, and then we want it to take our actual color. So in this case, it would be value, like that. Let's hit save and see what that gives us. So it has built. Let's scroll down, and there we go. I have my text primary 100, 200, 300, 400, and it goes through. It's giving me classes for all of them. This time I'm actually using this as a value rather than a property or something else. So this is why I don't need interpolation on this one, whereas in the other situations I needed to use interpolation everywhere. So you can see it's working for all of them. I have all these text utilities coming through. And now I want the same thing for my backgrounds, so I can stay within this loop. I don't need to make another loop. So we can actually duplicate this right here and just change this to BG and hit save. And now I have the same thing, BG YouTube, BG primary, BG everything. It will output them like this, but it really doesn't matter. So it's like text article 400, BG article 400, text article 500, BG article 500, because it's looping through. So it's doing both of them at the same time. There could be arguments for throwing important on one of these if you feel that they need the important or other things, but I think this is a really nice use case for using Sass that can output this. Now, if you don't want it to be output with the value here, but you want to take advantage of the custom property, you could even update this so it's not just outputting the value, but you can have, we've already come up with our whole naming system and we're using it here where we're using this custom property here. So you could have it output the custom property down here as well. I'll let you figure that one out on your own to practice a little bit, because it's always good to try and reinforce your skills if you're learning something like this. So you can sort of follow along with what I did here and then try and see if you can turn this into outputting a custom property instead of a set value. If you want to give that a try, if you feel like that would be worth it for you. So a few important things on this. First, you could use this for if you have a whole set of margins and padding utility classes that you use, again, set up a map for the different sizes and then have it all output into utility classes really nicely and easily. But anytime you are generating a lot of utility classes, you probably aren't going to use every single one. So it could also be worth it to run a purge CSS afterward just to clean everything up. So that way the production version of this won't include all of these extra classes that you might not actually be using, because you might use, say, 3 or 4 of them throughout your whole project. If you'd like to learn more about leveling up your Sass and diving deeper into creating your own mixins, exploring extends, organizing your partials, and creating your own functions like we did here, I'm currently working on my course, Sass, from Hello World to Real World. The course is closed right now, but it will be opening again soon, so if you'd like to keep up to date with it and know when it launches, click the card that is right here or the link in the description below to sign up for updates.